start off today's trade rumors with the list of players who I think the New Orleans Saints could potentially end up dealing. I'm not going to sit here and say all of these guys will be traded, nor am I going to say I want these guys to be traded. But we have to have an honest conversation because whether the New Orleans Saints are ready to admit it or not, they are in the midst of a rebuild. And the Saints need to address a lot of different positions of need, and they are in position to have a really, really valuable draft pick here in the 2026 NFL Draft. They only have 5 selections, so you're going to need to find ways to get more draft picks, and you know how you do that? Trade away players. We are in the midst of a tough reality, and unfortunately, we have to have this conversation. I know you guys don't like talking about it. There hasn't been necessarily a ton of reports of here is who's been called here, here is who's been making calls here, but this is, this could be what happens here in the next few weeks. Situations to monitor, a little bit of speculation, a little bit of putting some pieces together, talk to some of the guys at the office. But at the end of the day, the New Orleans Saints, they are in the midst of a really, really rocky start. I know that they're 1-5, and we all know that they are much, much better than that record indicates. But the roster needs improvements, and they need to really consider trading off some of these players. Now, get in the comment section before we start this off. Let me know a player you think New Orleans should trade away. I am going to let you use that list of 8 guys that we showed at the beginning of this video. Kamara, Olave, Shaheed, Taysom Hill, Demario Davis, Pete Werner, Cam Jordan, Carl Granderson, all guys that could be on the trade block, but also there, of course, there's a lot of other names on the roster too. Get in the comments and name me one. I gave you 8. All righty, I want to start off first, by having a conversation about a team that could potentially be making a call for a very valuable New Orleans Saints veteran. In case you guys didn't know, 49ers linebacker Fred Warner is going to be out for the rest of the season due to a dislocated ankle, and that is a really, really unfortunate injury for the San Francisco 49ers, and I could see them being a team that could be interested in bringing in some extra talent to that defense. Right now, they're at 4-2. They're first place in their division, the NFC West, and I could see San Francisco picking up the phone and saying, hey, Mickey, what's it going to take to give us either Demario Davis or Pete Werner? When you consider what Fred Warner is to the defense in San Francisco, he's an all-pro, he's a leader, he's a very valuable guy, and he's somebody who plays at an extremely high level. And that sounds a lot like our favorite linebacker, Demario Davis. And so I think San Francisco would have a lot more interest in trading for Demario Davis than Pete Werner. But for me personally, I'd rather give them Werner. And I will say when it comes to Demario Davis, he should have the option to choose whether or not he gets dealt. But I can tell you right now, I think that San Francisco will be picking up the phone. Will the trade happen? I don't know. But I do think that San Francisco is at least going to be making a call. And the 49ers, they also not just lost Fred Warner. Guess what? They also lost Carl Granderson. They lost Nick Bosa. I can't read. So that's where we're going to get to the next point, Carl Granderson. Because Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, 2 players, arguably 2 of the best players in the defense at their respective positions. They're really, really phenomenal athletes, really, really high-level guys. This is horrible losses. If you had the San Francisco 49ers defense in fantasy, sorry, man, that blows. But look, I do think when you consider what's going on in New Orleans and what's going on in San Francisco, this could actually be a match made in heaven in terms of a trade. We've seen Danny Stutzman and Isaiah Stallbert start to get rotated in with the starters for New Orleans. We saw Danny Stutzman get 4 snaps a couple of weeks ago, and then he had a much higher snap count against the Patriots. He even logged a couple of tackles. He showed some nice things. And Isaiah Stallbert is a player who's a thumper and has a lot of energy. And I think that both of those guys are tone setters and could be difference makers. So when it comes to the linebacker position, you're already seeing the New Orleans Saints start kind of working things around and seeing, hey, what do we got in this guy? What do we got in this guy? So maybe, just maybe, this could be something that is actually something that comes to fruition. Isaiah Stallbert, Danny Stutzman, they've been getting a lot of run with the starters alongside Demario Davis specifically. So I think that actually Pete Werner might be the guy that the Saints are more eager to trade away, and I would prefer to do that as well. I'd like to keep Demario Davis, trade Pete Werner. I know that a lot of y'all are like, hey, Pete Werner, kind of tired, kind of frustrated with him. That's totally fine. And I know a lot of y'all are like, Demario Davis, he's old, he's expensive, he's slow, he's lost his step, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I think that Demario Davis is still playing at an extremely high level. I think that he's a player who can still make a huge impact. And quite frankly, I think that you would be better off trading away Pete Werner, keeping the leadership of Demario Davis and the locker room presence of Demario Davis, and elevating Danny Stutzman into that starting role. And look, we talked about how the San Francisco 49ers also traded or also lost Nick Bosa. Carl Granderson definitely could get some interest. I think that he definitely is a player that is on the radar for the San Francisco 49ers. Cam Jordan as well, but I think that the Saints would rather move Carl Granderson over Cam Jordan. Cam has been very vocal. He wants to be a Saint for life. He signed another contract to retire with the New Orleans Saints, so I don't think that he is going to get moved. But Carl Granderson has been playing really good football thus far into the season. 6 games played, 4.5 sacks, had a really red-hot start in that regard, but has cooled down a little bit. Still a really good player that can improve a defensive line rotation, and he's somebody that could easily not replace Nick Bosa, but somebody who could be a nice little sidestep almost. It's not going to be nearly as good of a player as Bosa, but, I mean, he's a player that is quality, has had some good production throughout his career, and, you know, could help them out in San Francisco. All in all, I do know that there are a lot of teams out there who are always looking to upgrade their defensive line, and we obviously know that there's a lot of teams out there as contenders who believe you get that one extra edge rusher, you get that one extra player in the rotation, and that can really, really help you out. So teams always want to look to upgrade their defensive line. I do think another team that might be interested, the NFL has seen another edge rusher recently step away. It's Darius Smith. In case you guys didn't know this, he retired. Crazy. 11 seasons. I kind of out of nowhere, honestly. He retired today, on Monday, this morning. So, you know, we'll see what happens with the future of Carl Granderson. We'll see what happens with the future of the rest of the teams out there. The Eagles, the Niners. There's always teams who need edge rushers. Injuries are going to pop up here throughout the season. We'll see what happens. And I can tell you right now, if the New Orleans Saints do make a trade, we got you covered. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications. If there's anything notable that happens, let's say Olave gets traded, let's say Kamara gets traded, let's say Demario gets traded, let's say Pete Werner gets traded. If anything notable happens, not only will we provide content for you, but we're going to be live here on the show, breaking it all down and getting your reactions as well. So make sure you subscribe, turn on your notifications. That way you don't miss a thing. Now, 2 players I expect to be getting a lot of trade interest as well. No mystery here. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. I'm going to have a conversation about why these guys could be on the trade block and why I would or would not trade these players, and maybe some destinations where they could potentially end up. But I want to tell you guys about today's really awesome deal of the day. 40% off. The sale ends today. Click the link, chatsports.com/Cam Jordan sale. I made the link available in the comments and description of this video. It's an autographed Saints mini helmet. I actually have a mini helmet just like this one. It's not autographed, unfortunately, so yours would look a lot cooler than mine. But I have this mini helmet. It would be just like that, but autographed, and it's 40% off with Cam Jordan, the Saints Legends signature. So if you want to get it, we have a sale link for you, chatsports.com/Cam Jordan sale. Click the link in the comments or in the description of this video if you would like to take advantage of the sale and get yourself some awesome Saints merch, or not even merch, like it's a really cool piece of memorabilia for 40% off. I mean, come on, that's an awesome steal. Great gift, too. Now, let's go to the trade interest here. I want to make something abundantly clear here. I would really, really caution trading wide receivers here, because the New Orleans Saints are not a team that has a ton of wide receiver depth. They're not a team that has an illustrious set of playmakers on the offensive side of the football. So if you were to move some of these guys, you are at risk of really hindering the development of Rattler or Shuck, doesn't matter who it is. So in my opinion, if you want to trade one of these guys away, proceed with caution. Now, some teams, that could be needy for a wide receiver. There's a lot of them out there, but here's some that would make some sense. Pittsburgh, New York, Buffalo, the Cardinals. I mean, the Steelers always need receivers. They're always in receiver rumors too. The Cardinals, the Niners, the Patriots. I mean, these are all teams that I could see making some calls. Some of these teams have even already gotten some looks at Chris Olave and, maybe use the game film that they played as a little bit of scouting tape and say, hey, maybe that's the guy that we want. So let's talk about Olave here, because with Chris Olave, it's kind of a tough conversation. He's a player that you traded up to go and get. He's a player who you drafted to be your wide receiver one, and quite frankly, he just hasn't been that. He hasn't been reliable enough. He hasn't been good enough. He struggled this season. He's dealt with a flurry of concussions. He's dealt with some injuries in the past. He just hasn't been reliable enough to be a wide receiver one, in my opinion. And I do think that this year we're seeing a little bit of a different side. Like, how many times have we seen some ridiculous contested catches from Chris Olave? And how many times this year are we seeing him drop just underhand toss pitches to you? Like right here, all you have to do is just hold on to it and he drops it. Like, it gets really, really frustrating when your wide receiver one is making wide receiver four mistakes. The New Orleans Saints did pick up his fifth-year option, so he is under contract through 2026. So it's not like you have an urgency to make a decision right now. You still have this entire season to make that decision and potentially trade him in the offseason. But when it comes to Chris Olave, you have to kind of consider the rest of the wide receiver market and be realistic in terms of what he's going to ask for. And if he's looking for true tier one wide receiver money, I don't think that he's earned that money yet. I don't believe that Chris Olave has done enough to prove that a lucrative payday from New Orleans would make sense for this player. And I'm not saying that he can't still prove that. I'm not saying that I don't think he will do that. But I don't think to this point the New Orleans Saints have any business paying him an absorbent amount of money. If he's willing to take a little bit of a discount, be wide receiver two money, sure. Maybe that's something that would really help this whole situation out. But if he's not part of the long-term plan in the next 4 years, if you're trying to make a push for the playoffs, which hopefully you'll be there by then, if he's not a part of the factor and a part of that equation, you need to trade him before you let him leave in free agency. Learn from your mistakes of letting Trey Hendrickson walk, letting Zach Bond walk. I mean, you need to trade away players that are already going to be not a part of your long-term plan in the first place. So when it comes to Rashid Shaheed, I want to make one thing explicitly clear. There are a lot of players I am okay with trading with, and there are a handful, a very, very small handful of players that I are saying absolutely untouchable. Rashid Shaheed is at the top of that list. If the New Orleans Saints made the jackassery decision, and that's not even a word, but if they made the stupid decision to trade Rashid Shaheed, I don't think I would literally be able to control myself. I think it would be the most generational crash out I've ever had on this channel. I think it would be absolutely insane. I literally was talking about it with Lopez. I actually might cry. Like, might be grown man tears that come streaming down my face if we trade number 22. Like, I would lose my mind. Y'all know how much of a fan I am of Rashid Shaheed. Y'all know how long I've been on the hype train. Y'all know I was one of the first people to talk about this guy as a legitimate weapon for the New Orleans Saints. I would crash out like nobody's business if we traded away Rashid Shaheed. But again, it's tough conversations. Why are we having these tough conversations? Because the New Orleans Saints are in the midst of a rebuild. And when you talk about this team realistically, you have to consider all of the factors, and you have to consider the future more than the present. And I don't want to move Olave. I don't want to move Rashid Shaheed. I don't want to lose some of these legends that we have on the roster. I don't want to trade away some of the players that I still really like. But at the end of the day, you need to draft playmakers. You need to draft game changers, and the Saints only have 5 picks. So the black and gold needs to have those tough conversations and needs to do a realistic look in the mirror and evaluate what you need, what you don't need, and you need to have a realistic conversation. Are these guys a part of the long-term plan? If the answer is no, there needs to be a conversation about trading them. If the answer is yes, you hold on to them. You have the keys and you have the power and you have the control to drive the trades because you do have the players that other teams want. So drive up the price if you can, but realistically, if you get a nice offer for a player, like a second or a third for Olave, I'm taking that deal. Now, I want you guys to go ahead and give me a follow on social media. I post over there all the time, a lot more than I do on YouTube, and I put out 2 videos a day on YouTube. So if you guys want to see more content in between these videos, hit me up on X, Instagram, or TikTok. I have the links to my profiles in the comments and description of this video, or you can just search up Trizzy Trace in either of these 3 platforms, and your boy will pop up. Appreciate you guys for rocking and rolling with us. Y'all stay golden, and we'll see you next time.